So I'm really excited to rather reconnect with them, and more important, to know their journey through how it's going and how they have really got to a level where they have got. So just going into the quick introduction or agenda for today, we'll just do a quick raw introduction, and we'll jump into the subject of supply chain management. Note we have two aspects of the discussion today. One is about the career, what's the career in supply chain looks like, and more focused on students and young alumni that we have. I would also like to ask everybody else to please mute their mic so everybody else can hear properly. Thank you. So getting into Raha. So Raha was created by alumni to serve students, and to give back to the institution where we studied, where we rather got our engineering and got exciting careers ahead of us. So we have multiple forums that we run within Raha. A few to mention here. We have overseas forum where we help students with overseas studies. We are conducting few webinars. We have conducted few panel discussions. One of that was on study in US. We have a couple more coming up soon. One would be on finance, how to finance your overseas studies and what to expect. And the next one would be in Canada as well. If you want to study in Canada, what to expect. We have done multiple webinars. To name a few here, we did a webinar on how to mentor. That was done by Yogesh, who's here. Then we have done seminar on technologies, i.e. we have done on blockchain, we have done on emerging technologies, and so much more. We have connected people for the job opportunities out there. We are actively mentoring students. So we have assigned RAH members to certain students who could mentor them. We have RAH Business Network that have really created excellent networking for our entrepreneurs within the team, or even for working class within the team. They can connect with each other. There's a ton of business that people have generated through this. To just put a number to it, it's over $3 million by now, so over 13 crore plus. So that's kudos to our alumni network and our alumni to take advantage of this. And the last but not least to mention is RAV Business Innovation Project. As a first project, we have taken a project of e-bicycle, where we will have battery operated bicycle that RAH is rather hosting the development. And as Manzoor sir recently mentioned, we have booked our first order for it. It's in the testing phase right now, and we are really looking forward to commercialize those innovative projects into the market with the help of RA alumni, with the help of really students and the institution altogether. These are just a snapshot of what we are doing through RAH. We are here for the students, we are here for alumni, and we are here for the institution. And we want to make sure in every action we do, we are investing a lot of time. In every action we are actually creating value for the society. So with that, I'm just going to jump into the subject. Before I jump into the subject, actually, I wanted to get into, we have a birthday of special member of our Raha team today, who has been mentoring us for a long time. He's been a leader. He's a true team player for our team. He has put together this team and leading the team for a long time, and has invested a ton of time. A super smart, beyond reason is how I would explain him. A true leader, a friend, and an expert. CEO of Sayadri Farms. I wanted to just wish him the best from our Raha team, from all the alumni network, and from this team here. Wish you a happy birthday, Abba. And I think you are just online now, but we'll give you some time at the back end of the seminar, so we could use Sanjay's time the most now. So wish you a happy birthday. And with that, I think we could jump into the subject. And as I said earlier, supply chain management as a subject itself is close to me. I've been working in this area for about 19 years now. And we have Sanjay here, who I know from my childhood. Really somebody who I always looked up to, very polite right from the childhood, hardworking beyond anybody I have seen. So with that, Sanjay, I just wanted to allow you to have a quick introduction to yourself. With that, over to you, Sanjay, to introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks. First of all, I can see the Ra journey is shaping very well. I attended around 2, 3 sessions. One of those sessions was overseas higher studies, which you and Yogesh presented. It was really nice and really informative and helpful. So thanks for that, and thanks for first of all inviting me. I wish Abba a very very happy birthday, my dear friend. He is very very active here, and he is very active in many of the fields. How he manages his time, how he manages his network, his relationship is really a thing to learn from him. So once again, happy birthday, Abba. I'll start with my introduction, and then I think we'll come to the supply chain, which is our careers. Uh, yeah. My video is on. Sorry.
Yes, yes, you are. I think Sanjay, we can see you. Yogi, we can see Sanjay.
Okay, because that is what I
Okay,
it was. So Yogesh just sent one message. Sorry.
we can see
Yeah.
you. Go ahead, Sanjay.
Okay, great, great, great. So I'll start uh, with my education. I was the native of Shirala, Batish Shirala, similar to many other friends we have over here. Lucky to be part of that area, and did my BE Mechanical from RIT. It was really a nice journey. Those were really the days which we are missing still. Jogalekar sir was the principal at that time, and it was really a very upcoming college at that time, and one of the topmost colleges within the private institutes. Really a nice journey. After that, I joined Escape Bearings, and I worked there in quality production, and then Wipro, I worked in quality, and then I did my MBA from NITI, which is the National Institute of Industrial Engineering, Mumbai. There you can get the admission either through GATE or through CET. So there I did the MBA in operations, and I worked in Dr. Reddy's laboratories in supply chain management, Reckitt Benckiser, Glenmark, and now working in Mylan. So this is my short journey and my quick introduction.
Thank you, Sanjay. It's just amazing to see how a guy from Shirala, right, like really rural area, developing to a level of being a head of commercial in one of the prestigious pharmaceutical company. I just wanted to check if Krishna is online at the moment. He had some emergencies that he had to attend, and he would be calling in slightly late. Just wanted to do a quick check before we jump into the details. Krishna, if you're online, just let us know, and we could do a quick introduction now, or we'll just use some time later on when he joins in. Okay, with that, I just wanted to go, Sanjay, in a little more detail. Okay, so I get it, like you introduce yourself with your accomplishments and stuff. So, just wanted to get, before we get into the day in life of a supply chain, can you help us understand how your journey got into a supply chain management? That is, if you look at 20 odd years back, or when you started your career, 20 25 years back, it's slightly a different field for a typical mechanical engineer to get in. Can you just help us understand how you got into it?
Yes, yes, sure. So supply chain has got many people who are actually engineers. So as you know, IT, like for entry into IT business or IT companies, analytical ability is required. So for supply chain also, that type of skill is required, where analytical ability, decision making skill, negotiation skills, those are all the very important skills. Those are required in supply chain. Even though engineering degree is not a must,
Yeah.
people prefer engineers wherever there are these type of skills required.
Okay. And we have the detailed skill question coming up as well. So if there are
Sure,
any
sure,
questions,
sure.
just let's just hold on to the capabilities part of it. With that, Sanjay, if you could help us just understand what a typical day in life looks like for a supply chain professional. And I get it, it's pretty vast field, but if you could choose a couple of examples, maybe one at the leadership level and one at a ground level, how the day looks like for a guy who's working in supply chain, just
Yeah,
to give a flavor to our students how the life looks like when you're working.
sure. So in supply chain, I think there are three types of main areas where you can contribute. One is the strategy. Other one is the tactical, where we actually look at a lot of short-term decision making and short-term cost saving or short-term profits type of thing. And third one is execution, where there's a lot of day-to-day operations. Those are involved in the execution area. So as you can understand easily, as you join, you will be mainly in the execution. You will be doing day-to-day activity like creating the purchase orders. You will be dealing with the transporters. You will be dealing with the warehouse operators. You will be dealing with the airlines. Many of the third-party operators that you will be dealing with initially to start with, and you'll start your career. You will start your career at that time, uh, at the start of your career. Sorry. Then, as you move along, you will be in the execution. You will be in the tactics. This is the execution part, which I said. Then you'll be into tactics, where like you'll see, can we move this warehouse from point A to point B? Can we actually set up a factory somewhere in the south if currently the factory is in the north? But those will be only the short-term projects, where like you will look into some of the cost savings, where you can make some of the short-term profits. Can you move this cargo using airline A instead of airline B? So that is another tactical point where you can work on. Warehouse space. So can we actually, instead of combining, instead of having two different warehouses into two different cities, can we combine the warehouse space and save the cost? So those type of things. And strategy is actually another thing where like we take a lot of decisions where to put the plans, what type of model you want to operate on, like made to order or made to stock. I'll explain those in detail in some time, if required. So those type of a lot of decision makings, those are done. You might have heard about this, like made to order, assemble to order, etc. Design to order. So those type of decisions about the supply chain model or your manufacturing strategy, those are done by the head of operations or head of the supply chain.
Yeah. So you talked about a little bit on the strategy side, and so ultimate journey to get into rather within the supply chain is getting into the execution day-to-day work, to more towards a little bit more on the planning side, and then towards the strategy side.
Yes.
Can you just help us understand where does the supply chain as a profession fit within the industry? Just to give a flavor to our students that how important it is being a supply chain professional within the industry to run the industry smoothly or get the most out of it.
Yeah, so supply chain is like this is the area which is developed over say last 40, 50 or rather 70 years from the world wars, where like logistics was very, very important aspect of feeding the soldiers on the fronts. So we need to have the right material, right type of food, right ammunition, right people should reach at the right place. All this logistics activity, those for those activities, logistics science was used during the world wars, and from there this particular field started developing, or a particular discipline started getting developed. And then there were a lot of other disciplines those were added, like materials management, which is like inventory management, forecasting, and then procurement science. Those were things, those started getting added, and it became a full-fledged function, or rather important function within an organization, where nowadays like supply chain is actually part of the strategies, and many of the CEOs, chief executive officers of the companies, those are actually coming from the supply chain background. So initially they are supply chain heads, and now they are becoming the CEOs of the companies. So I can take examples of Walmart, Dell, wherever like the company's main strategy is supply chain. They are like you have a chance, or like there are like normally the people with supply chain background are preferred to head the company, and they are leading the company, taking those companies forward, and more than 400 billion etc. business they are doing.
Thanks, Sanjay. And I'm just going to put Abbasaheb Kalia on the spot here. Being in the food industry, I just wanted to, if he could unmute it, just wanted to give, if Abba, you could give a little bit more on the food side of supply chain, how important it is given your product is perishable, right? If your supply chain is not efficient, then you
Yeah,
have
Amit,
big
can you hear
losses
me?
to come across. Absolutely, Abba, go ahead.
I think, sorry, my video has some problem. It is at most, you can say, very, very important because we deal with very short period with perishables. So right from harvesting to the last, like from you can say to the plate of customer, it is very important that how you take care of all the aspects, including hygiene and all. So it's one of the most critical operation in entire say
Value chain, yeah.
value chain, because if you fail at any of the phase or any of the stage, you will get into a problem, a very severe problem, that you are losing entire profit or entire bottom line, because unless and until it gets sold, you don't get back the say inputs to your finance and all. So it is very, very critical in businesses like food.
Okay. Thanks, Abba. Really appreciate that. And to your point, supply chain has got more and more prominence. And as Sanjay said, that the supply chain leaders are getting to the top really fast.
Amit, 1 minute. Sanjay, when Amit is talking, can you please mute yourself? I think there's some echo
Sure.
from your side, if you don't
Oh,
mind. Go ahead, Amit.
thanks, Abba. Okay. So just wanted to mention that as Sanjay mentioned, right, supply chain leaders are reaching to the top fast and it's getting more prominence in the industry. Why supply chain is more and more important for everybody. With that, I just wanted to ask Sanjay a couple of questions. For if you think about our students, if they want to get in supply chain, what would be the first thing during the bachelor's they need to think about? What capabilities they should develop? What are the things that they should be thinking of while doing the bachelor's that would allow them to get into supply chain? In addition, if you could help us on the career path, i.e., what's the next thing they could either go study, uh, either do MBA, could be industrial engineering, could be PhDs. If you could help us around understanding how our students could improve their capabilities and what's next in it for students. Up to you,
Sure.
over to you, Sanjay. Yeah.
Sure, thanks. So before going to that question, I just wanted to add a couple of things on what Abba was saying. So that is really a nice thing. Like one is the food supply chain. Other than that, also where currently I'm working is medicines supply chain. So you can actually imagine that there are some vaccines or some medicines who have the shelf life of 3 days also. So that type of supply chain is really challenging. And every medicine will definitely have some expiry date. Some will have 1 year, some will have 6 months, some will have 2 or 3 years also. So getting the product delivered to the right customer before it expires or before its usability goes off is very challenging part of the supply chain. So we have to, and the prices are different. So if you see, there are like some tablets, aspirin also, where like the price is like in paise, 5 paise also. And there are some medicines where you would have heard one girl recently where the injection of her in Mumbai, Kamat, her name was Kamat. So around 17 crore injection in Indian currency, 70 crore rupees. That was a cost of one injection that was imported from US and was given to her for one very rare disease. So that type of challenges, those are there from you say 3 days shelf life to say 3 years shelf life or 5 years shelf life, and the cost of the product or COGS might be from 5 paisa to crores of rupees of one unit of medicine. So that type of challenges and complexity, immense complexity that is there in pharma supply chain or food supply chain, FMCG business, fast moving consumer goods. and where margins are always under pressure because of competition, and you need to still manage the cost. You still you have to ensure that the product reaches to the right end user before it expires. So that is really a challenging field. Just to add into what Abha was saying, and Abha is also actually facing those challenges, I think, day in and day out, which we are also facing here. And even though we'll discuss some of the other aspects of pandemic later on and the impact of that, but that has actually given us a lot of learning in designing our supply chain.
Thank you, Sanjay. That was amazing example of
Yeah.
how complicated a supply chain could get with a 3-day lifespan of a drug. It must be quite a challenge for a supply chain professional to be in the business or other stress to handle with it.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. Krishna sir had just joined the call.
Hi, Krishna. We just started, so not we're just getting into the capabilities, Krishna. But before we get into capabilities, Krishna, if you could just quickly introduce yourself.
Yes, hi. Nice to join and be with you all today. From my end, I guess I'm not basically what you call as a traditional into a traditional supply chain, but more from my approach is more about the e-commerce, e-tailing, and how supply chain actually enhances the entire e-commerce business. So I've spent a decade in this topic, and my last two gigs has been purely in terms of how to facilitate technology. How does technology play around in ensuring that we have better efficiency of movements of products, cutting down costs, and how does efficient stock management actually help in the overall success of a product delivery. So, it's a very nice subject that we've touched upon today, and I'm very glad to be in with you all today.
Thank you, Krishna. Really appreciate it. And it's a perfect timing for you to get in because we're just getting into the capabilities that are required for supply chain in the aspect of our students who are online, how they could prepare themselves for a successful career in supply chain, and what's next after the bachelor. So during bachelor's preparation, and what's next after the bachelor's, that either they could go out learn, either it could be masters, MBAs, or PhDs. What's out there? So with that, I just want to give it to Sanjay first. Sanjay, if you could take a snag at giving us a little bit more on the capabilities.
Sure. So one is that the education, right? We were discussing about that. So engineering, even though engineers are preferred everywhere in every field, every company, every profession, and in supply chain also, engineers are very highly likely to go places, go to the top. So engineering is there, and thankfully, luckily, we all are engineers. We are pursuing engineering now. Some of you are pursuing the engineering now, so that is good. But it is not a must. Okay, once again, I'll just tell that it is not a must. There are some commerce professionals, finance professionals, some other professionals also have actually joined the supply chain field. Engineering is there. You probably prefer to work for a couple of years after engineering, and then you did, if you do the masters, either it is operations MBA or anything similar to that with supply chain as an your main topic or main focus or specialization rather. That would actually give you a good chance to join in various firms in supply chain function. But it is not the only way to enter into the supply chain area. There are consultancies. So all top consultancies, they have supply chain practices. So you can join there. So that is another way of entering into supply chain. Then there are technology firms. So right from SAP to Oracle, there are so many other firms like Kinaxis, etc., where they have a lot of softwares or ERP systems, enterprise resource planning systems, which almost every organization uses for some part of it at least. So that one can go there, they can learn that, then they can develop the understanding over there, and then also they can switch in any of the uh, product company as part of the supply chain at some point in time. So these are the various ways of entering into supply chain. Coming to the capabilities, as we were just trying to touch upon the capabilities. One is the analytical skill. So looking at like what is happening, what are the numbers, where the numbers are moving, that comes in all your analytical skills, analytical abilities, and that is actually there inbuilt in engineers because of the focus on mathematics, right from the beginning. So that is one important skill. Negotiation skills, we were discussing about it, or we were touching it sometimes back. Because in procurement, like you need to work on so many things, and you need to negotiate, reduce the cost of everything, almost whatever product or service you're purchasing or procuring rather. So when we say product, is like raw material, packing material, machineries, consumables, anything. And services, like you purchase a lot of services like logistical services. You purchase so many temporary human resource services. So everywhere, like your negotiation skills will help you. And as you become senior, what happens is that like maintaining the status quo or maintaining the operations or managing the operations is one thing, but you need to keep on adding value. And there are many companies where the target is to save the base cost, say approximately 10% every year. So your sales should grow by 10% or 15% plus every year, but rather on other hand, your costs should also come down by 10% also every year. That is always a challenge that is given to the seniors in that function, including me in my company. So it is really a challenge. Like we need to keep our eyes and ears open. So and keep looking at what is happening. So all these skills, analytical ability, negotiation skills, those actually help. Coming to the third one is decision making skill. We have to always keep on taking a lot of decisions. Like now, looking at what is happening and what is going to happen using our estimation capabilities, we have to keep on taking a lot of decisions. So price of say one API or one ingredient within a pharmaceutical product. Last 6 years, the price is moving from say $100 kg to 120, 130, or rather let's take the example of crude. So crude, where the crude is going, and crude prices will have impact on many of the other commodities in the world. So crude, whether it will move, and like crude has moved between $25 to $200 a barrel. So you need to actually, nobody can exactly guess where the crude will be in next 6 months or 1 year, but at least you need to be on top of the game. At least you should be in top 10 people who can estimate it right. Like or your estimate should be on the top 10 percentage in percentile terms, so that like you would be minimum facing the losses on that. On
Thank
those
you, Sanjay.
decisions. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, rather ask Krishna to add a little bit more from his experience from his e-platforms and payment systems and so on. Krishna, if you could help with capabilities on that side.
My take is generally from fulfillment perspective. If we have to actually have an end-to-end platform which looks into, one is the sales, then you got basically the entire administration and order management, where you're ordering from vendors, which a typical ERP does. And then there is the back-end inventory management, and then the aspect of supply fulfillment, last mile, where you got things being shipped out, shipping, or in internal country, you're delivering products. So if you have a clear line of view as to where your losses are, and how you can curtail that. We can, from a technology perspective, it's very, what do you call, less complicated. I won't say it's easy, but your complications reduce quite significantly on understanding what are the issues in the entire, delivery of your product to market. And then you are able to curtail those losses and efficiently improve your process in each of these areas. So that's one, that's my take on this aspect. But I have a lot more things which I want to actually speak about. It's more about, as an engineer today, one is, we all talk about, we want to be an entrepreneur as well. We are thinking out of a box. We want to make, we want to make something very creative. We want to start our own business. How our thinking should be, and I'll give you an example. I'm not sure if someone can raise their hands in this meeting. There's a capability, but how many of you have heard of this mattress called as Sunday mattress? Has anyone heard of this Sunday Rest or Sunday mattress? It's an Indian company. You can click on the raise hand just to see if you guys actually, yeah. So is one, yeah. Yeah. So what I want to actually cover through this story of this Sunday mattress, actually the concept came in from a US company called as Luxy Sleep. Okay, we never thought that a mattress, which is a luxury mattress, would fit into an e-commerce supply chain or e-commerce fulfillment. A mattress is something which you go to a store, it's very heavy and bulky. You feel it, you sleep on it, and you think, that would, and then you buy it. It's more a commodity which you would pass on and say you would buy on a bricks and mortar store, which is like actually a shop. You go to a shop and you buy it. But what we can learn from this is the guys from Luxy Sleep, they devised, when they developed this product, sorry, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Vamsi, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but it's coming broken.
Okay. Okay. Is it better now?
Yes, Vamsi, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So this story of how they actually designed this product and they thought about how to take it to market because they challenged the old concept of things like these don't work. Mattresses you can't sell online. And it actually, the mattress which Luxy Sleep designed had all the aspects a typical mattress which actually is sold on a shop. The only thing was it could be packed in a box. They used material in it, or even the technology which they used, like the kind of springs. They got rid of springs. They look more at acrylic plastic material, which actually had a similar, bearing and similar cushioning like a typical spring. So they thought through the product, they brought it to a market, and they really captured that market with that concept through an e-commerce. So if we all actually think, logically, if we have to take a product to market and think about supply chain as a method, keep in mind when you design the product, you'll realize that it's a new way of thinking. You can actually look into various different areas of selling this product.
Krishna, I just want to interfere for a second. I just want to bring it back to more students' capability side of it, just to focus on that point. And I get the point. It's a great example of thinking more than that. But if you could help more from the students' perspective, how it would help them to build their capabilities, would really appreciate that.
Yeah, in terms of capabilities, it will be good for students to uh, actually look into commercializing their thinking. You know, one is we are engineers, but we also have to see how to think commercially and being practical. Sometimes things are it's common sense, you know.
Right.
So we need to bring that in because sometimes we tend to overcomplicate things and tend to do over engineer things. But sometimes it's simple common sense and how to put a commercial hat in whatever we actually develop and think of the entire segment. And a bit of reading on these aspects definitely helps.
Thanks, Krishna. So just to kind of get the meat of it, as Sanjay said earlier, that on the technical side, keep your analytical skills up to date. Make sure that you understand the new tools, new ways of analytics from data analytics side of it. The technologies in ERP, even we had some workshops in blockchain. Make sure that you're up to date with that. And on the soft sides, rather non-technical side, having developing yourself for negotiation skills, improving the communications, and as Krishna mentioned, that having that read through more and being more practical truly helps from the capabilities point to develop into it. Sanjay and Krishna, just confirm if I concluded that fairly good, or you want to add anything, or anybody else rather.
No, Amit, you rather conclude very well. Technology, mastery on technology and keeping tab of what is happening on technology is very important,
Thank
which I was just about to explain in that. Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to kind of ask the next question around that, and that's more to do with the career in supply chain for students and for young professionals here. How rewarding it is to work in supply chain when you're working there, not just by position, but more from the mindset point of view and fulfillment point of view. Go ahead, Sanjay, if you could help
Yeah.
us with
So,
that.
sure, sure. So, of course, the career in supply chain is very rewarding. As I said, money is not the only point, like one which one wishes in his life, but rather like the challenges every day. The life should not become boring. And as I said, the shelf life aspect, for example, or the price aspect, or the things which are happening and changing every day in the world, right from crude prices. There are so many things keep happening. New airlines come up, so you get new routes, new options for moving your cargo. A lot of infra keeps developing, like the golden quadrilateral in India, right? So then you and GST and the things and improvement happening on toll. So a lot of things keep changing, and you react, and sometimes you have to be ahead of the competition. You have to beat the competition, not only react, but you have to be proactively in front of everybody else, and that is really a challenge.
Thanks, Sanjay.
That keeps you going actually every day. Every day you should feel that like we should when I get up, when I reach the office and start acting on those issues, acting on those problems, and once you score either little or bigger wins, you celebrate. So that is what actually keeps you going.
Thanks. Yeah. We got a question here actually. Just wanted to mention that. We have question in terms of capabilities, how analytics, big data, and IoT, and this is a perfect timing for the question because I was about to get into the new technologies and interruptions in supply chain impacting SCM. So before I ask Sanjay and Vamsi to put their sense in, I just wanted to say that from capabilities point of view and fulfillment point of view, we typically hire from the top universities here at PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers. Sanjay, can you put on the mute? We got
Sorry.
echo there. Yeah. So when we hire from say Harvards of the world and Stanfords of the world, these new grads have been given option to choose their line of service, and there is always a big fight to choose supply chain as the first point where they want to be in the consulting world, because that's where the growth is and the challenging world is. Now, getting into the IoT and big data, Sanjay, being in the pharmaceutical, and Vamsi with your digital knowledge, I would ask Vamsi to first get in, if you could help us understand importance of analytics, big data, and IoT, and how it has impacted the SCM. Vamsi, over to you.
Yeah, yeah. So this is a good question actually. This is actually everyone is gravitating towards. They're very hungry for data, as I said earlier, especially in terms of understanding how to efficiently run all your process. You need data. Data is very important. How do you collect data? And various aspects of collecting data is something then comes into the picture. Okay, like your goods, they're moving. You got some tags against it. You're monitoring product delivery. You're monitoring sales. You're monitoring inventory. All these aspects, you're actually keeping a tab on each and every aspect of your business. So that actually kind of data definitely helps. In order to make it a lot more sophisticated, the challenge in India, it may not be the challenge wherein you got skilled labor available very freely, but in Western countries, the challenge for them is how to take off people off tasks which they don't need to be. Why doesn't technology take over that part? You must have heard of these Amazon grocery stores where people simply tap and go. Okay, and everything gets registered in the backend, and Amazon fulfills all the inventory back from the inventory back into these stores. So these grocery stores, Amazon grocery stores, they just basically keep bringing in more stock as soon as they find the stock depletion in the stores. And these stores are not manned by physical people. Okay, there are basically people coming in, buying things, tapping, and just going. So this is a wonderful example of how technology is assisting, removing out human errors. Getting a human being there. There could be some human errors, but the way they have actually conceptually thought through each and every aspect, and then taken that out in terms of fulfilling by technology. So they've all obviously thought through how people come into the store, what are the things they should look into, how they will basically pick up the products, and on the shelf itself, the shelf should monitor that it's out of stock at that stage. The person or the customer simply taps, makes a payment using their phone or any other device, and just walks out of the store, and they monitor them throughout. So this
Thanks.
is a wonderful example of that.
Yeah.
And there are a
Sanjay,
lot of
do you?
lot.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead,
Sorry,
Vamsi.
sorry.
Sorry,
There are
I
a
thought
lot
you
of
were.
there are a lot of other examples where retail stores have mimicked something similar to this, and you can find that in fashion or the garment industry as well, wherein you simply walk in, you just check a certain garment in a store, and then it's not available there, but you know where in which other store it's available then and there, and then at the screen itself, you don't have to go to the cashier or don't have to go anywhere. You just go to the till where, not the till, sorry, the aisle, pick up the garment, you just tap it there next to a screen, and it will tell you this garment is not available here, but it's available in a store close by to you. So
Yeah.
these are some other examples of technology as how it's fulfilled some of these areas.
Thanks, Vamsi. Sanjay, do you want to add anything on it? And especially in pharmaceutical, I think blockchain is even taking further leap in validating the trust in the product. So if you could help with some more technology examples, that would be great. And you could even
Yes.
touch more on the industry trend as well with that.
Yes, yes. First of all, thanks, Vamsi. He's beautifully captured the impact of technology in our world. So I would like to add not only the pharmaceutical. I'll take examples from pharmaceutical, but
Sure.
some if you know the large book chains or bookstores like Borders or Barnes and Noble in US, which actually are not there, and Amazon has fully taken over it. So about 20 years back, these were the big stores, and now those are not there. And Amazon is the top company. So how internet has changed this world, and nobody thought 20 years back that internet will be everywhere in our life. Similar to that, blockchain will be the next frontier of technology, where next 20 years it will be again it will be used everywhere in every part of the life. So in supply chain as well, the blockchain is being used, or not at this stage very extensively, but we are going there. So I can take a couple of examples, like we and those are like hardcore supply chain examples. One is, as Vamsi explained, for Amazon, the automated payment gets deducted, etc. Once you pick up some goods from the store or online, etc. So those are there, but one is that, like, we do the vendor rating. And when you do the vendor rating, normally what happens is that over some frequency you change the ratings, like in a month or say 6 months, etc. And then you decide whether to give 60% orders to say supplier A for the same material, and 40% to supplier B, or vice versa, or combination of A, B, C, say 30%, 30%, 40%, or something like that. But what happens, like, if we have big data blockchain that is available, you can actually change the frequency of all those decision making paradigms, where you can actually, if there is big issue with some suppliers, you can change the ratings every day, every 4 hours also. So that is one example where basically you can keep on improving your cost effectiveness, your tactical ability, and that benefits the company. Forecasting is another big example, where, like, you have to estimate what are the products, what type of product you will sell, and you have to gather a lot of data from across the supply chain, from retailers, from wholesalers, and your nodes like CNF agents, etc., your own depots, warehouses. So gathering that large data, actually, blockchain would help us in future in a more significant way to do that with more frequency, with more accuracy, and take the corrective actions very fast. So that
Sanjay,
is.
sorry to stop you in the middle here. I think we're concluding on that point, but uh, just being aware of the time, I just don't want to let it go. For really hot topic in the supply chain world, or rather any world right now, is how the COVID has changed the supply chain, how it has impacted across value chain overall, and more prominence towards supply chain. If you could touch a little bit on that with Vamsi, you as well, feel free to add at that. That would be really good.
I think for retailers as such, those bricks and mortar store, like, people who have a proper shop, um, they've been affected big time. But it's very amazing. Actually, they've turned this into an advantage. Most of the, at least the brands or products which traditionally have been selling in a store, they've turned this into an advantage by automatically trying to make adjustments. And I believe Sahyadri has done something similar, which is, I think Abha can talk about that at a later stage, maybe. But they've turned this into an advantage where they have avenues where they can actually go online and fulfill the demand still. And people sitting at home can get access to their favorite brands. So I've seen ads coming in for those Amritsari papads, which I would love. Actually, when I go to Amritsar, I used to buy those papads. But then I was surprised to see you got Facebook's advertising these papads online, these spices online from Kerala coming in through an online e-commerce uh, platform. So obviously, businesses have tried to mold themselves and try to basically implement some amount of digitization into their business to make themselves look more towards online presence. At the tip of the finger, people can actually buy. It would need some amount of, at least for serious brands, it does need a fair amount of adjustments into their warehouse, how they actually stock these products, because online is a different ball game compared to a typical shop. You're obviously either you have a great amount of marketing effort, so you push, say for example, you push 5 to 10 crores into marketing for some big brands. They push 5 to 10 crores. They would expect a return of investment at least, at least 1.5 times of whatever they spend in the marketing. So there is a lot of pressure on the e-commerce, the platforms trying to push that so that they make at least don't make a loss, or they kick off with at least some profits. So they devise their entire campaigns around that, and then they make some adjustments into their warehouses, so that when you go in for a marketing push, which is big dollars you spend, you better be really on the ball. You got all the stock which you have ready, because you want to actually come out making some profit out of it. So
Vamsi,
businesses have more gravitated towards that.
yeah, Vamsi, you absolutely nailed it. And to your point, COVID has given a new opportunity for business. I used to go to the gas station to fill up my gas in my car every time I empty it, right? These days, there's a gas guy actually shows up in front of my doors every Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock, and I just fill up with him now. I don't even go to the gas stations, right? That's the opportunity that COVID has presented, because people are too scared to touch the handle of gas bar to put the gas in. So, Sanjay, if you could give some more examples, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. So COVID actually has given a lot of opportunity. Initially, there was a lot of learning or a shock, or around 1 year back, exactly when the lockdown started, everything was closed. All roads were closed, all ports were closed, airlines were closed, and it was a March end. And you can imagine, like, March end is like the best period for companies to achieve and complete their targets. And we and every company have produced so many things for achieving targets, and the those were getting expired, or those were getting into risk of expiry, because we were not able to transport those to the customers. Thankfully, within 1 or 2 weeks, the essential services were opened, etc. So that was really a great learning. But till it took a couple of weeks to get the message through to the man on the road, like, because every road there were police officers, and there were several cases where our trucks were stopped. And those some of the drivers were attacked and arrested, and we had a lot of issues that we had resolved at the time. We have taken, of course, help from some of the people in government, and of course the political leaders or ministers, and we could actually get it done. But it took around a month or so to get everything settled, and March was gone. So that is the start of the lockdown, or the COVID started impacting at that time. But slowly everybody learned, like, main thing what pharma industry has learned is reducing the development timelines. And as you know, everybody or most of the guys in the world are thanking the pharma industry for developing initially all the medicines like remdesivir, etc., and now developing vaccines in record time, in 6 months to 1 year, where earlier 5 to 10 years was this development time. And of course, the political will also helped to clearing everything faster. So all that is there, but that is one great learning. And pharma industry has learned to reduce the timelines for the new product development, and that is has helped.
Yeah, Sanjay, I'm going to give 1 minute each, for one for you and one for Vamsi, really, because of the time and nothing more. If you could have like one golden nugget or one piece of advice that you want to give to students or young professionals, what would you give it? And with after that question, we have some more time. I just wanted to check if Kulkarni madam is online. If you could spare a minute to talk about, in general, about RIT and our guest and today's seminar, that would be appreciated. With over to you, Sanjay, if you could just give one piece of advice for students.
Yeah, there is no any specific advice what I can say, but like, just be yourself. That is only the thing. Like, what you are doing really good, and you are getting developed. You are in a right journey. Just keep that going. Be calm, be patient, be attentive, be open, start grabbing whatever you can from every thing what you see, right, from the technology and other areas. Be open. And that's it. I think that would actually see you through, not only in supply chain, pharma, the consultancy world, the technology implementation world. You can do it. That's what my message would be.
Thank you, Sanjay. Vamsi, over to you. If you could give us one piece of advice for young professionals.
Yeah. So see, today's supply chain management is a very vast subject, and it's difficult to cover a lot of things. But my honest advice to all the young students out here today is, if you understand a small bits of every concept, and see how it fits into a business. Like say this example of the supply chain management. How does it fit into a business? How's how are traditionally businesses implementing these kind of concepts? Just don't have to go dig deeper into it, but even if you understand the very basic of it, whatever you do, whatever you're doing in your daily life, try to see how these kind of concepts apply in your day-to-day, whatever you do in your school, in college, when you're doing your projects, when you're studying any subject. See, focus more on the application side of it. How do these concepts apply in whatever you're doing? So that would really help to enhance, because that will be more practical to you as to what you're doing. So that's my honest advice to you all.
Awesome. I think we have Kulkarni Madam, Director of RIT Online. And Madam, I just wanted to give you a couple of minutes to kind of, if you want to add any points on this or any comments, feedback, everything is really welcome.
Yeah. So excellent going, and the discussions are really opening up the minds of students, because whatever they learn in theory, they need to think of its application. And whatever projects they do in the institute, they should do the projects with the passion to learn and not to just pass the exam and get marks. So I think the students who are on this platform will surely think of their future. Whatever they are learning is to apply in future and not just to pass exams. So that is one point. And the second thing is, we are starting with now next year computer science engineering, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. So I think definitely we'll need inputs from you, and so that we can develop the contents and syllabus in such a way that it is more like we are producing more employable graduates and they learn what exactly the industry needs. So with these few words, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Madam.
you. Very great discussions are going on.
Thank you. Really appreciate, ma'am, and really encouraging. With this, I just wanted to give to Abba first, our birthday boy here, an esteemed leader. He's been mentoring this team and putting it together for so long. So, Abba, if you have any feedback, piece of advice that you want to add, that would be great.
Thank you so much, Amit, and thanks indeed for your lovely wishes. I think you guys made my day. It was really, you can say, encouraging and giving lots of energy to do such things again and again. But as ma'am said, I endorse the point. I think great discussion. Well done, Amit, Vamsi, and Sanjay. Very close friends of mine, and doing really great in global environment. To be very frank, I think few points which you mentioned were very, very important. For a group like Sahyadri, we took pandemic as a great challenge and a great opportunity also. The reason is that what we did in last 8 months was not possible in last 8 years. You will not believe. Like Sanjay mentioned, or I think Vamsi touched on that point. Then I just remember a statement from Satya Nadella when I think in last April or May, the amount of technology integration and penetration in an entire industry happened very fast, maybe 10 times or 100 times in last couple of months, or last, say, entire 8 months or 10 months. And same happened with we were already say geared up with blockchain and all, and we could do that. So technology is at heart at every business. And I just wanted to hear from you or Sanjay or Vamsi specifically. Does it really require a mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, or software engineer, or it is applied to everybody? Because today it's a open global village, and everyone. I think we've been debating on this. Some of the tools like AI and similar technology we need to know as every engineer. So, what is your take on that? And thank you so much, guys, for remembering me and making my day memorable. Thank you, Amit.
Yeah, thanks, Abba. I'll just take a 30 second snag at it, Abba. Now, knowing the basic technology such as analytical skills and a few basic technologies, it's part of being literate. It's no more, you don't need to be an engineer to know it. It's everybody who's literate needs to know it. With being said that, engineering helps you develop the true logic and ability to face the issue in a methodical way, and that's the advantage of being an engineer in this environment. I work in acquisitions, mergers, and technology and supply chain platform. Really, no engineering degree is required to do that. But every time I go out, I know I could connect with the industry better than anybody else out there. Knowing engineering slightly, plus the logical development that engineering has done for me, I think that gets me to the next level. Sanjay, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, so basic skills if you have and you add into these skills, and everybody should add into this should add these skills, but not to the same depth as that special person or expert or special person doing specialization can add, but at least the introduction.
Vamsi, do you want to add anything else?
I guess logical thinking and being practical and understanding how businesses work really helps. But as you rightly said, analytical thinking is the core behind everything. As an engineer, you bring in you apply those skills quite significantly in all facets of whatever we do in a day-to-day life. So it becomes part of our being, and that's a good training actually what we got from RIT.
Amit, I was about to say that you said about engineering, and then engineers from RIT are much better than any engineer. Just
Absolutely.
one thing I just wanted to mention today, Amit. I think if you see the chat box, I'm really happy to see such a what you can say a great chat box with great insights and feedbacks. Thank you everyone for being there. I think
So
we should say Manali if you are there.
yeah, I
Please
just want to give it to Manali for concluding it, Manali. And from personal side of it, it is really great connecting with Sanjay after about 22 years, Sanjay. So I think going forward, we shouldn't take next 22 to connect. So
Sure, sure.
over to you, Manali.
Amit, sorry to interrupt. Shall we take some questions from the audience, if any?
Yeah, so we could stop by after the meeting, sir. So at least if people who have to drop off could drop off. And if you have questions, please stop by on this line and we'll try and address as many questions as we could.
Sanjay sir and Krishna sir, I know the subject is very vast, but you try to touch all the aspects, and that was very informative and really inspiring for the students who want to just start the career in supply chain, and also who are already working in the industry. So we really appreciate both of you for coming on this platform and sharing your valuable experience in the field. And I would like to express my sincere thanks on behalf of all the Raha team. Also, thank you, Amit sir. You conducted the session in a very amazing way. Abba sir and Sushma ma'am, your presence always inspires us. And all of you who joined us tonight. So we are concluding this meeting on this note, and see you next week. And those who have questions, please stay back. Thank you.
Yeah, if
Good
you have
night.
questions, please stay online and we'll try to address. Sanjay, Vamsi, if you could spare a few minutes. If not, Yogesh, please, if you could stay online as well. I saw lots of machine learning and artificial intelligence questions, and I can't think a better name than Yogesh, so would really appreciate that too.
Yeah, I was
Thanks,
trying to
thanks
answer.
everybody.
I did not want to distract the flow, so I was trying to answer those questions in the chat.
Yogesh always load machines. You know.
It's It's hard for me to keep quiet, so I was just typing in the chat.
Being a consultant, so we could go through a few questions. Rohit and Manali, if you could just help us, just bringing any questions that came through the chat, that would be great.
We can start with the chat box. Sharad Mane has 2 questions, very start of the meeting. So I will read one by one. His question is, can Apix will help to grow in SCM domain in India? And can you suggest anything else than Apix to grow in this domain?
I can take that. So Apix is actually the premier body who does the certification. So Apix is like the golden standard, I can say, on that. So, like, if somebody is searching for like what specialization or for what certification to be done, then Apix is the best, I can say. But
And
of
in
course,
North America, Sanjay, we have SCMA in addition to Apix. So SCMA is highly recognized. If you want to get into a core procurement buyer, category manager, supply chain manager type work, the designation called SCMP.
So we
Okay.
have already answered the questions regarding blockchain and pandemic, etc. We have one question from Mr. Sachin Khoth. He's asking, comparing to TechMake and West approach, that is linear model of working, how a new model of circular economy making more sense in the modern supply chain, and what are the opportunities of research in this area?
Okay, I'll take it from North
Very,
American side.
very tricky question. I think very tricky.
That's a loaded question. So, Sanjay, like I don't know who asked that question. I think Sachin Khoth, you said.
So are we actually trying to touch upon the green supply chain, probably?
I was about to. Yeah, go for it, Sachin. Go for it,
Sachin, sir,
Sanjay.
can you please unmute yourself and explain your question?
So green supply chain, or like the companies going for Dow Jones
Yes,
index? That is the
Professor Sachin Khoth.
hi Sachin.
Yeah, the question is about sustainable supply chain.
Yeah.
And now new buzzword is coming, that is circular economy in the field of sustainable supply chain. So people are academic research is going more in this area. So I would like to hear more upon this. So if you could address this question, that will be very much helpful.
Yeah, sure. So
Go ahead, Sanjay.
Yeah. So as I was just touching upon this, like Dow Jones index, where like companies are preferring, a lot of companies, top companies are preferring to go for Dow Jones sustainability index, and they are getting a lot of weightage from the stakeholders, and they are getting actually push from competition as well as the stakeholders like governments and public in general, or the procurement bodies in general, to go for sustainable supply chain, or social, economic, and environmental aspects also have to be taken into consideration while designing and maintaining any supply chain. So simple examples like I was earlier touching upon the subject, like you have one plant in North India, say, and that is the only plant supplying some of the product. Then why can't you actually have alternate plant in or one additional plant, say, with 30-40% capacity of the plant A in South, because you will reduce a lot of logistics, and that would actually help us to maintain the carbon credits, or it will help us to making it green. But again, we have to consider all the aspects, whether there is, like, if some raw material those are required, those are there in South nearby, or if water is required for that plant, whether that is available, and if you are drawing the groundwater, are you actually making efforts to replenish that water by using very sustainable ways, like rainwater harvesting, etc., putting up more trees, etc. So all those aspects, those actually come up while taking the decisions about the sustainable supply chain, and more sustainable, because today you are doing some business, say you are doing say $1 billion USD business, and like revenues and earnings, say 250 million profits. After 20 years, where you will be? Like, is your market growing with the population rate or faster than that, and whether all your ingredients inputs will be there at that time. You have to think the sustainability also, whether you will be getting those inputs, getting the water for making your products, etc., getting the wood if some of the components are the natural ingredient, etc. So you have to think from all those aspects. What will happen after 20 years, whether you are doing the business sustainably or not, or you're just like minting money without thinking any long-term aspects of it. So that is what actually matters while designing the supply chain nowadays. And
Thanks,
that,
Sanjay. I think Abba wants to talk as well. I just wanted to give opportunity to
I
for
think
Abba to add it.
Sanjay just mentioned that, and he referred Dow Jones index and all. Sanjay, just to mention, I think I was going through. I'm personally following green supply chain for last couple of years. Few things are mandatory from compliance point of view for all the businesses in whichever country you say have presence, but corporates are going for green supply chain on their own, because millennials are basically asking these sensible questions. Are your products manufactured in green way? And that is really changing entire game, because when customers demand for that, I think you are forced to take business decision. I think two things I think are are important for any decision, like customer demand, and second thing, your regulatory demands. So here customers are playing very important role, and that's where I think most of Fortune 1000 companies are in advance planning for entire thing. And what Mr. Khoth has asked, I think it's a really great question. But we just talk about circular economy, we just talk about sustainable, and we do not really talk in true sense what is practical. I really like Sanjay's answers, because when you run business, you need to look into various factors. I think forcefully you cannot make it green for all the aspects, but yes, you can definitely try to do that. And then indexes like Dow Jones help. There are 17 SDG goals which I'm talking to Vyas and entire task force that we should implement at RIT, because every business house is working on declaring themselves how we are doing better on those 17 SDGs. But great point, Sanjay. Thank you.
Thanks, Abba. I think
I think
Yogesh
Yogi wanted to
has
say
point to
something.
add. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think both of you covered these points, right? I just wanted to add a couple more things to Sachin, your question. As Abbas said, only two things in my mind will force companies to do on this, right? Otherwise, it will be just a lip service, because they need to worry about their, their bottom lines, right? One thing is customer demand, customer forcing, and other thing is regulatory. And both of these will work hand in hand in certain cases. Like, see, a lot of companies, if you see, they are pledging carbon neutrality by year 2030, and now they're saying 2050, whatever, right? Amazon has started something, they want to make carbon neutral or carbon zero in few years. I forgot what was their target, whether it was 2030 or 2050. But from that angle, they have started putting the electric cars on their
2030.
last mile delivery kind of things, right? On the other side, as Abba said, as people are becoming more and more aware, right, especially millennials, and they are kind of forcing the hands of these companies to look into all these aspects. I mean, supply chain is just one aspect of like green economy, but even right from all the process, right? If you are like, for example, food company, is your chicken coming from humanly sourced farms? Is my vegetables coming from organic fields? So as more customer, that's where the companies will start thinking on these terms, either by regulations or by customer awareness.
Thanks, Yogesh. And Sachin, sir, just to add on research institutes working on this, I personally know two or three that are really doing extensive research on this. One to mention is McGill University out of Montreal. Second is MIT, that's Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And Manchester University is the third one that I know have put a tremendous effort on a social economics of supply chain, or rather social impacts of supply chain.
Yeah. I mean, just I would like to request people from RIT right now, currently who are serving there as professors and all. I think we need to take up like AI and all those things, sustainability as well as supply chain. These both the subjects very seriously at institute level. Otherwise, we are missing the bus. I hope you all will agree with me.
I agree.
Just to add, Professor Sachin Khoth is teaching supply chain management. in the RIT.
Great.
Nice.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other questions or
We
good?
have last question from Mr. Ravi Chaubale regarding artificial intelligence.
Oh, that's Yogesh.
Okay, what was the question actually? I know I made some comments about that.
I think it's AI and ML, how it's impacting supply chain
Okay. So
Actually, he is asking
and rate determination.
for,
Yeah.
please elaborate AI for rate prediction.
yeah, I do not really. I'm not very sure what Ravi means by rate
Yogesh, I
prediction.
could elaborate a little bit more. So what he's trying to get at is demand versus rate. So if you go to Amazon right now, especially Amazon US, you would actually see the rate is not fixed. The rate changes every time you do it. It's like booking flight from US to India. If you try and search it 10 times, you know the rate is going to go up because they're using the analytics to that how needy you are to book that, and they change the rate. It's very similar things that are going on based on the demand. Platforms such as Amazon are really using that from people's browser history or AI to kind of learn from your purchasing habits and how they could inflate the prices or changes the price.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to, I mean, having hard time correlate that with the supply chain. I mean, the rate prediction from what you mentioned, right? That's more like a consumer sentimental analysis
Behavior. Yeah.
kind of thing, AI analysis. But if you want to talk from the supply chain perspective, right, especially AI in terms of supply chain, I think the way, just to give an example, right, AI will add a lot of predictability based on the data analysis for the past trends. While nobody can predict something like COVID happening, like no AI could have predicted that, right? If something like that is happening. But uh, at least now with that, some of these models are coming in place where people are trying to predict the next pandemic. And it's not only pandemic, next weather events, right? If you look, I mean, if I had to give an example, like 6 or 7 years ago, if you see in the US warehouses or big shops, everything is like kind of weather driven. You know exactly what kind of clothing is going to appear on the aisles of Costco or anywhere, like in which month, right? Now with the changing weather patterns, you see the winter clothing starts arriving like in pretty much, August, and summer clothing starts arriving from March, which was like, at least that 2 months ahead. And lot of that inventory, they have to either keep it, not use it, or not get ready in the time. But with AI and prediction, like, we have some use cases where AI is working with weather.com, right? We are working with the weather company, and you might know that IBM bought weather.com as a weather company, and they're integrating some of that stuff with the help of Watson and all. So what happens is, if you can predict some of these weather events, I mean, how how harsh the summer is going to be next year, and that can drive, how much ACs you are going to produce, for example, right? Or how long, I mean, when you will start producing those ACs, or your swimwear hitting the market. So when do you start placing the orders in your supplier in China so that your swimwear hits the market 2 months before normal time? Those kind of
So
stuff.
Yogesh, what you are saying is in the layman's term is essentially manufacture umbrellas more if weather channel is telling you that it's going to rain a lot this year.
Absolutely. But then if weather channel is telling you that 2 days before that it is going to rain on Thursday, that doesn't help you much if you are a shopkeeper to order those umbrella. But if it can predict that it's going to rain, that 6 months in advance, then you have enough time to, get those umbrellas manufactured in China or Philippines or India and get to the US market in right time.
Sounds good.
I think, I mean, just to add, I think, I don't know whether you guys saw that video which I posted on Ra, all the platforms about Asian Paints. Yogi, I think Mr. Choksi, their managing director, purchased a supercomputer well before our other organizations, government organizations. Can you imagine? He has used SAP to deliver Asian Paints 4 times to the market or whatever the end point is there. I think I request all of you, and today whoever was present, I think we should circulate that video. It is amazing story from our own country, and amazing, Amit, in terms of margins. They have written best paint of the world, best paint company of the world, just on. Can you imagine if there's a store in Nasik right now? At 6 o'clock evening, they deliver 4 times in a day. you will not even believe this. And at 6 o'clock at that particular, what will get sold maybe 2 months down the line or 2 days down the line, they have predicted very well. There was a great comment in the chat from SAP data. Exactly that they have integrated, and they have worked that very well. I think please look at that video. It is really eye opener that some of the Indian companies are doing really amazing stuff in supply chain management.
I'm sure Sanjay could add something on Canexis about that, Sanjay, on demand predictions.
Yeah, so one is demand prediction. One very interesting example on that is like in Nestle or the food companies or milk companies, how they predict the demand for the curd and how they take the decision on how much milk to procure. So much data is used hourly or every 4 hours data is used for knowing like how much curd is currently getting consumed or getting sold on the retail counters, and the same feedback goes into the through different channels to the procurement team, and then they decide how many tankers of milk is to be bought for the next day's production, and so on. So that is one of the interesting examples. Other than that, like the point which I was talking of, like the supplier rating changes the percentage of the future orders. So that also automated basically, where if you don't want to put manual decision making in place, you can always set up the system in such a way that this rating falls below say 60% or something, then the percentage of orders going to that customer will be reduced by say 10%, 20%. So that is basically it can be.
Yeah, I had an opportunity actually to work on a project out of New Zealand that was manufacturing of the cheese. So all the cheese that comes in US is mostly New Zealand manufactured. So it's truly not New Zealand manufactured. So the process works like the milk gets on the ship and the cheese is manufactured when the ship is traveling from New Zealand to US. So the day it touches the port of California, it's the fresh cheese, day one, that's manufactured in New Zealand. So that's the true intelligence of supply chain. And based on the demand, if the demand is high, let's just say in Vancouver port, so that ship instead of going to California is rerouted to Vancouver based on which product is getting manufactured on that ship.
Yeah, and some of those things, right, that is possible because of intelligence, automation, IoT, and
It's
data
everything in it.
analysis. It's
Absolutely.
everything. Yeah, it's very hard to segregate what's AI and what's IoT and what's intelligence automation. I mean, just to example what Sanjay gave on a lighter note, right? I have something which looks at my calendar for next 3 weeks and decides how much Starbucks coffee beans to order.
Sanjay, just out of curiosity, how close these predictions are in terms
We
of
could actually stop
percentage?
recording, Manali, if you could.
Sanjay?
It'll become too long.